the job. In the meantime, Biden and Harris still have not visited the southern border. Joining us to discuss is presidential historian Doug Weed and Reagan biographer, sorry about that, Doug, and author of the book December 1941, Craig Shirley. Doug, I'll start with you. President Biden told the American people during his first press conference on Thursday that he has not visited the border because he did not want to divert resources. Two questions. One, do you buy that? And two, why do you think Vice President Harris hasn't made a trip to the southern border yet?
Thanks, Andrew. That press conference was a nightmare. It was that slip up and many others. He said, these people aren't coming to the border because of me. And we had pictures of thousands of little children with Biden T-shirts coming to the border. He was very cranky and angry over what he described as abuse of the filibuster rules when the Republicans haven't used it yet. And he made this extraordinary claim that there may not be a Republican Party and that the Republican Party was supporting him now when the latest polls show that he has about 10% support among the Republican Party, which make him president with one of the lowest supports of an opposition party at this stage of his presidency. So I wouldn't blame him for trying to shift some of the responsibility to Kamala Harris. She's younger and sharp, but it appears it didn't work.
Yeah, apparently she wasn't in on it, Craig. Here is her response to visiting the border. Listen to this.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today, but I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that that's really not a laughable situation right now. But also, what do you make of the position that the vice president seems to be taking in this administration? And is it something that has any sort of historical precedent? Because it does seem like she is right there all the time, right next to the president.
Yeah, Heather, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of a historical precedent where administration started out so disorganized and so badly miscommunicating their message, and I'm hard-pressed to think of one. This administration has started out, whether it's a press conference or a press avail, anything they do seems to be confused and dissembled and just massive things. So I don't know. It just the bottom line is that it doesn't seem to be very well organized right at this juncture right now. At least by my reckoning, by my watching and my recollection of many presidencies in the past.
Yeah, Doug, I want to get your reaction to Vice President Harris saying this about cages back in 2019. Take a listen.
We are not going to have policies in place that go against the morals of who we are and the traditions of who we are, including saying that, you know, we would not break up families and we would not put children in cages.
Also, let's take a look at a tweet Kamala Harris put out in 2019 saying, as president, I will immediately put in place a meaningful process to review asylum cases. I will release children from cages. I will get rid of the private detention centers. It's time we had a president whose actions reflected the values of our country. I mean, I guess the one defense she can have is she's not president. At least we think she isn't.
Although President Biden did call her president.
That is true. That is true. Doug, your reaction.
Yeah, Andrew and Heather, this is just loaded. I mean, stop and think. Joe Biden, 78 years old, he says now he's going to run for re-election at the age of 82. He's not. I mean, Fidel Castro was 82 when he died. Mao Zedong was 82 when he died. Kim Il-jung was 82 when he died. This guy's not going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it through this first term, frankly. But he's not going to run for re-election. That means the power shifts to Kamala Harris. The people there on staff in the White House and in the government, if they want to stay on for another 4 years, they're already slipping over to the vice president's wing and saying, what does the vice president think about this? What does she want? And I want to add one funny thing. Jared Kushner once said to me that taking on peace in the Middle East, that was one thing, but when the president assigned him to take on the border crisis, he said, that's the kiss of death. Well, I think Kamala Harris has figured that out.
Yeah, I mean, and perhaps for good reason, though, because, Craig, they've not been able to resolve the border crisis for many different administrations, although during the former President Trump's administration, the numbers were at least able to go down with a lot of policies that he put into place. But then, obviously, with the executive orders, regardless of what they were told the ultimate resolution would be, the Biden administration came in and, put the kibosh on at least 3 that we now know made a huge difference.
Yeah. Now, there's only one way to solve this crisis, and you're right, it's been going on for a long, long time, is to make it less appealing to come to the United States. And that means saying no to all the free handouts and all the free gimmies to people who are illegals who come to the United States illegally, and make it more attractive for them to stay in their own home countries by creating economic conditions and political conditions that make them want to stay and that make them want to stay there, so that we don't have a crisis in this country as we do now with people streaming over the border with drugs and sex trafficking and all sorts of other problems that are attendant to illegals coming into the country.
Well, I guess my only question is, if the vice president and the borders are, and the president isn't, who is? Do you know? Doug, Greg, you want to take a stab at it, Doug?
Beats me.
Look, yeah, it looks like they've they don't want it to, they don't want to face it. They don't want it to be the crisis that it is, but it's getting late. It reminds me of George W. Bush being late to get down there to Louisiana when there was the flooding. This is a real political mistake, and it's a shame, a humanitarian shame.
Greg, last word briefly, sorry.
Oh, it's an ongoing crisis, Andrew. It requires tough decisions, and I don't think Biden's capable of making those tough decisions that are necessary to solve the problem. So the problem is going to continue as long as for this administration, as long as it lasts.
Well, Doug Weed and Greg Shirley, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew. Heather.
Coming up, how the media is responding to President Biden's first formal press conference. Hint, hint, it will make you cringe. Sebastian Gorka joins us next to weigh in.